I have the fun of doing the fluffiest piece this afternoon, both figuratively and literally. The two in the center are mine. We've got 2 cats and 2 ferrets. And as a pet owner, I know that I need to make sure my pets are going to be cared for in the event that I can't. Sorry, there was difficulty there. And as an estate planner, I know what tools are available to me to make sure that that happens. So I work with older people whose pets are very near and dear to them and sometimes provide purpose for their lives. I work with younger people whose pets maybe have longevity, tortoises or parrots, or whose pets have very high care needs for vet bills, so horses, for example. I also work with people who just happen to own cats and dogs and want to make sure that their pets are cared for when they're not able to do that job. So there are 3 situations we need to talk through. The first is an emergency. The second is short-term incapacity. And the third is long-term incapacity and death. So let's talk through what options are available for all of these situations. For an emergency, my recommendation is that you write down pet sitter instructions. Similar to what you might leave for a babysitter, you want to name who the caretaker is going to be. And I always recommend you name an alternate as well. And then check in with these people from time to time. Make sure nothing's changed in their world. That means they would not be able to take care of your pets. Then you want to name the name, the age, and the medical history of each of your pets. You want to name a name and a contact information for a vet and an alternate vet. Not all vets take care of all pets. So for example, for our ferrets, I have to go to a vet that's further away than I do for our cats. So make sure that you have a vet listed for each pet that might need a specialty vet. Also name the name and contact information for family and friends in case something goes sideways for your caregiver. You want somebody there as a backup. And then name as much detail as you can for your pets. What are their favorite toys? What are their favorite snacks? What food do they eat? Are they under any medical care? The more detail you can add, the easier it's going to be for your caretaker to step in and take care of your pets. And then what do you do with it? You share it. You share it with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors, with your mailman, anybody you can get to take it, you give it to. And that way, if something happens to you, everybody knows what to expect. The second thing to do is to identify where your estate planning documents are located. So make sure that your agents and your trustees and your caretaker know, where are my estate planning documents? If they're in the library on the lower shelf, make sure everybody knows that. The documents don't do you any good if people can't find them when they need them. And third, use window stickers and wallet cards. So these came from the ASPCA, but HAWS, the Humane Animal Welfare Society of Waukesha County, will also give these out. You place these on your doors and your windows, and that way if an EMS crew or police or fire department need to stop by to take care of you, they know there's a pet in there, and they know who to contact about that pet. And then the wallet card, this is just something I printed up using the smallest font possible. It names my pets and my contact information and contact information for the caregivers of my pets. I tuck that into my wallet, and that way if I'm in a car accident, the police may find it and they'd say, hey, she's got some pets, let's contact these people. And so it's a way, again, of taking care of your pets if you're not able to. The next situation is short-term incapacity. So let's say that you're pregnant, or you're planning on going through chemotherapy treatment, or you're planning a surgery. You need some way to make sure that your pets are cared for during those few days or weeks when you're not able to do that. So one of the options is to pay for a professional pet sitter to come in, and they take care of all of your pet's needs. The other option is to consider family and friends. If you're thinking about having family and friends come over, think about what the different needs are for your pets. So for example, your pets need to be fed. If you have dogs, they need to be walked. If you have a cat, the litter pan needs to be cleaned. So if you break down the different needs, you can assign different people to each of those needs. Your niece is willing to come in before work and feed your pets. Your neighbor's willing to come over and walk your dogs a couple times a day. And your son's willing to come over and do litter pan control. So if you break it down, it makes it easier for everybody to step in to help care for your pets. I do recommend that you not have the person who's caring for you care for your pets. Their energy and time is going to be taken care of with you. They may not have much left over for your pets. So consider naming somebody other than the person who's taking care of you to make sure that your pets are protected. I keep putting this down, I should just keep it in my hand. And the third situation is long-term incapacity and death. The long-term incapacity means that you're moving to an assisted living program or a nursing home and your pets cannot come with you. Not everybody's going to face this in our world, but we are all going to face death. So we need to make sure that our estate planning documents reflect the kind of need we want our pets taken care of with. So make sure that your estate plan reflects your pet's needs. So there are different ways of doing this. One is an informal agreement. The other is to use a will with testamentary provisions in it. And the third is to use a trust. Now, informal agreements, this is what everybody does. They have an agreement with their friend or family member. If something happens to me, please come get my cat and take care of my cat. Sometimes money transfers with that, sometimes it doesn't. But it is simple and it's easy to do, which is why it's frequently used. If you do it in conjunction with pet sitter instructions, it can be quite effective as well, especially if you have a modest estate or if you have typical pets. Dogs and cats is frequently what we'll work with. If, though, you have a more complicated estate and your pets have more complicated care needs, then you might want something a little more permanent. And our options there are to use a will or to use a trust. So a will, get to that part. A will, you can write, unfortunately for us, we think of our pets as people, but pets are actually considered property. So you can transfer ownership of them using a will. Now there's some downsides to doing that. One, a will is a death document. It does not help you out if you're incapacitated. It only kicks in after you've died. The second is that you have to walk that will through a probate process. So a court has to approve of these transfers. And that can take anywhere from 6 months to over a year. And during that time period, there is no legal ownership of your pet. The third is that it tends to be the most expensive way to administer an estate. So for these reasons, you might not want to consider using a will unless your estate is fairly simple. So what is our other alternative? The other option is to create, you're right, Mark, this is sensitive, to create a pet trust. Wisconsin law now allows us to do this. They're treating pets more like people. You can create a trust and have the pet be the beneficiary of that trust. And then the trustee or a court has oversight over it and can make changes if they need to. And it has to only be for pets that you own when you pass away. So you can name your pets, but then we always include language that says, or any pet I own when I pass away, to make sure everybody is included in it. Also, the funds can only be used for your pets. So you can't include friends or family members in this trust. It is only for your pets. So then you have the choice of where am I going to put this trust? Does this pet trust fall into my will or do I put it inside of my revocable living trust? Many of you probably have a revocable living trust. We like using them because they're an incredibly flexible document to use. You can easily change it, you can easily amend it, you can do almost anything inside a trust that isn't illegal. So that's a good thing to be doing. So we tend to prefer putting pet trusts inside of revocable living trusts. Again, it deals with 3 different situations: while you're alive, if you become incapacitated, and when you pass away. And because it's going now while you're alive, there's very little time difference between the time that you become incapacitated and then again when you pass away. So it kicks in very easily and quickly. So if you're creating a pet trust, what do you need to consider while you're doing that? So this is the overview of what we need to do, and we'll go into each one in greater detail. So you're creating a pet trust. You need to think about 3 different roles. The first is who's going to be in control of the money? That's your trustee. They're managing the funds on behalf of your trust. The second is who's going to be the caretaker for my trust or for my pets? These are the folks who are going to essentially own and take care of your pets. And the third is what pets am I talking about? And again, most people say any pet that I own when I pass away. And pet trusts can be put in place for more than one pet. You also need to figure out how much money am I going to transfer to this trust? And a court can say, nope, that's too much. So you need to think about what sort of pet am I taking care of and what sort of needs does that pet have? So for example, I worked with clients this past year who had dogs, a parrot, and a horse. And they came up with a number that I nearly choked on when they told me how much they wanted to transfer. But then when we sat down and talked about it, I thought, no, that is a reasonable amount. Their dogs needed a great deal of medical care. Their parrot was young and was probably going to live another 80 years. And their horses are expensive. No matter what kind of horse you have, they're expensive. So you need to make sure that the amount you're putting into your trust makes sense for the pets that you own. There's a world of difference between taking care of a hamster and taking care of a horse. You also want to talk about what sort of standard of living do I want my pets to have? Can my dog go to a groomer once a week, or can I toss him in the bathtub once a month? Those decisions will make a difference in how much money you can place into your trust. Then we need to figure out, how do we get money out of your trust? You've decided how much to put into it, but how is your caretaker going to receive those funds? There are a couple different options. One is a monthly stipend. So a certain day of every month, money comes out of your trust and is transferred to your caretaker. So this could be a windfall for your caretaker if they're not spending that much, or it could be harmful if they're spending more than that amount. The other option is that they can submit receipts to your trustee, and your trustee pays those receipts. I like working with a combination of it so that my caretaker knows that my daily, day-to-day needs of my pets are going to be taken care of. But if there's an emergency, those needs will also be covered. I also like to encourage people to give them a thank you gift once in a while. So maybe at the end of every year that your caretaker is taking care of your pets, they get a monetary Christmas gift or an end of year bonus. It's just a nice way of saying thank you so much for taking my pets in and for loving them. Then you want to talk about what's going to happen at the end of my pet's life. Do I want some sort of humane euthanasia if they hit a certain level? And what happens to their bodies once they pass away? Do I want them cremated or buried? There are a lot of funeral homes now that are offering pet cremation, and every vet out there is going to know somebody else who could do it for you. So maybe you want those ashes spread in a place that has meaning for you and your pets. You can name that inside of your pet trust. And then if your pet passes away and there's still money in the trust, where do you want that money to go? You can name family, friends, a pet organization such as Haws. You get to have control over what happens even that far in advance. And then are there any additional considerations you want to take into account? So for example, for these folks who had a parrot and a horse, we named a group of people who they could go to, the caretakers could go to if they had questions. So for the horse, we named a vet, a farrier, a friend who understands horses, and the trustee. And that way, if something happened to the horse, the caretaker has a place they can go to ask questions. Would it be reasonable if I did this or that? So it helps that caretaker out if they're facing a period of concern for your pets. So there are three situations that we talk through: an emergency, a period of short-term incapacity, and long-term incapacity and death. So here's my call to action. If you own pets, please create pet sitter instructions. Write them out, write them on your computer. However you get them written down is great. Share them with everybody that you know and tuck them into your estate plan. And then if you feel that your pets have greater needs than that can manage, give us a call and we'll gladly look through your estate planning documents and see where we can put places in to help your pets. So please keep in mind, you love your pets, they need you, and they can't speak for themselves. So please take the time and speak for them.